Hey there, grade 6. Welcome to a new video today. This one is called Estimating in Addition and Subtraction, and the goal by the end of this video, hopefully, and the end of the practice in the workbook, is that you will estimate sums and differences and choose a method of estimating. It's good stuff. All right, so here's where we are going to start. We talked back in class, our last lesson was focused on rounding. And so here's where we're going to start. We're going to round 24,758 to some different places. And so the first one that we're going to do, and I know that there are boxes down here, but I'm just going to use the text feature. So we're going to round to the nearest 10,000. And now this number here is in the 10,000s, right? It goes ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. So we look at we're going to round, this either is going to go up to 30,000 or down to 20,000, and to tell us we have to look at the digit to the right. This is a 4, and we remember our rhyme from class, 5 or more raise the score, 4 or less let it rest, all the numbers to the right turn to 0 in a fright. And so because this is a 4, that means that the number is going to round down to 20,000. Oh, and I get to fill them in like this. Hooray. There we go. So this number rounds down to 20,000. And so the next one is to the nearest 1,000. So we have ones, tens, hundreds. This one's in the thousands. So we are either going to round this number up to 25,000 or down to 24,000. And again, we look at the digit to the right because this is a 7. We remember our rhyme. This is going to round to, it's going to round up to 25,000. And this one is just to the nearest 100, which is a little hard to see, but this is the 7 here. So now this is either going to round to 24,800 or it's going to round down to 24,700. And again, we look at the unit to the digit to the right, and that's 5, which means that it's going to round up to 24,800. Close enough. 800. There we go. With extra zeros there. Sorry about that. Anyway, so that's rounding to some different place values. All right. Now we have two questions here, and so the first one, it asks us which is easier to round, to do the actual addition there, which is 475 plus 321, or if we round and we do instead, we say 500 plus 300, which both those numbers have been rounded then. The easier one obviously is the one on the right. 500 plus 300 is just 800. So the actual answer to that, 475 plus 321, is 796, so it's pretty close. But what we've done, and what the question on the right does, is it does an estimation, right? And so we round the two numbers, and we do an estimation. Now, generally speaking, why would we want to estimate answers? We estimate answers to check the reasonableness of an answer that we have found, or to, maybe do a quick calculation when we don't need an exact answer. Estimation is often used with like very large numbers. So for example, if we're comparing the population of two countries, right? And so Canada's population is like 37 million or so. Mexico has about 130 million people. So the first question, which country has a larger population? Mexico, obviously. About how much larger? You can say it's about 100 million people more than Canada, right? You don't need to know the exact answer. There is an exact answer, but we're not that worried about it. But Mexico is bigger than Canada by about 100 million people. So one thing we can point out is that when we are doing these estimated answers, we have this little symbol here, which means approximately equal to. Okay, now what we're going to do here is estimate to something called the nearest 1,000. This, what they're actually asking us to do, and hasn't been necessarily mentioned yet, but we're finding the leading digit, which is the first digit in each number. Okay, so if we round this number to the nearest 1,000, that is going to go up to 2,000. And then if we round this number to the nearest 1,000, it is also going to round up to 2,000, which means that when we do our estimation, it's 0. Our estimate is 0. That is not reasonable. Now, instead, it makes more sense to round these numbers to the nearest 100. That will give us a more accurate answer. So to the nearest 100, 1834 rounds down to 1800, and 1598 rounds up to 1600. And that difference is 200. Notice the difference. Okay, so sometimes rounding to the leading digit is not always the best idea. Now, what I'd like you to do, if you would like, at this point, you can pause the video. You can go into page 35 in your workbook, and you can work on numbers 1 and 2, all the questions, and then you can pick it up again. But if you don't, you can just keep playing the video. Okay. So again, the first place value in a number is called the leading digit. Estimating to the leading digit, it's a good strategy, but like we saw in the previous slide, it doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to estimate a different digit. When two numbers have a different number of digits, it also does not make sense to round to the leading digit. You need to round both numbers to the same place value. Okay, and so you're going to come across some questions in the book that sort of focus on that. Yep, so you can practice that stuff. All right, so here's the number 48,329. We say that it's approximately equal to 48,300. The question is, which digit did I round to? Hopefully you can confidently say that we rounded to the nearest 100. Okay, so if we round 48,329 to the nearest 10, that's going to give us 48,330. That's to the nearest 10. To the nearest 100, we know it's 48,300. And then to the nearest 1,000, it's going to be 48,000. Okay. Okay. For this number, 48,993, rounding up to 49,000, we rounded to the nearest 1,000. And to the nearest 10 would give us 48,000. 49,000 would be the nearest. Nope, sorry. 48,990 would be the nearest 10. To the nearest 100 would actually be 49,000, and then to the nearest 1,000 would also be 49,000 if I follow my proper rules for rounding, because when you're at 993, that's going to round up to 1,000. Okay. If a number has many zeros, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's been rounded. Just pointing that out, you will come across some questions that are like that. There are some other ways to estimate in addition besides rounding to the leading digit. So with regular rounding, if we round this to the nearest leading digit, that's going to give us 5,000 plus 3,000, and that's going to equal 8,000. That's for regular rounding. If you round one digit up and the other one down, that's going to give us 5,000 plus 2,000, which is going to equal 7,000. If we go to the actual answer, 4,567 plus 2,731, that's actually going to be 7,298. So in this case, the closer method is to round one number up and the other one down. Okay. So if I had this question, 760 plus 330 is 1,090. Goodness. 1,090. And notice what I'm doing here. One number gets rounded up, the other one gets rounded down, and I'm only off by 10. Okay. Because again, you're gaining 40 here, but you're losing 30 here. So you're kind of accounting for what you're gaining on one and losing on the other. And so that's a useful strategy sometimes. It makes sense to sometimes use the one up, one down estimation when both numbers are kind of in the middle of the range. So for example, if the digit you're looking at to tell you if it's going to round up or down is like 3 through 7, you'll get closer if you do a one up and a one down estimation strategy. Then the mistakes will kind of cancel each other out, which is actually pretty useful. If you're going to estimate a sum of 3 or more numbers, you might want to use a combination of the methods, right? So for example, here you have 2 numbers sort of in that middle range. And so if you round one up to, let's say you round the first number up and the second one down, so you end up with 500 plus 400, or 500 plus 500, and then you just round the third number to the nearest 100, you're actually going to get pretty close. So if you round this one up, the first one up to 500, the second one you would round down to 500, so you've kind of accounted for what you've gained and lost, and then you just round the third one to the nearest digit, you're going to get, in this case, 1800. Now the actual answer, 442 plus 543 plus 802, actually the actual answer is 1787. So the estimate is only off by 13, which is pretty close. Okay, we also need to do that with subtraction. Okay, so if we do regular rounding, right, that's going to give us 5,000 minus, and this is going to be 2,000. That's going to give us a difference of 3,000. In this case, if you round both numbers up and you get 5,000 minus 3,000, that's going to get you a difference of 2,000. And then the actual answer, 4,567 minus 2,431. The difference is actually 2,136. And so the closer method is, in this case, rounding both numbers up. So that will sometimes work in subtraction, okay? Now, here we have a question, 273 plus 385. If you round, near to the nearest leading digit, that's going to be 300 plus 400, which is going to equal 700. Now that answer of 958 does not seem reasonable. Even if, and more specifically, if you round one up and the other down, that's only going to give us 600. That's going to be even further away. And so like both those numbers are sort of within that range. So this is not a reasonable answer, right? And so you've got to make sure that you are able to do estimating your answer before using a calculator. Because sometimes you might type a number in incorrectly, or you might multiply instead of plussing, or you might subtract by accident, or whatever else. Like using estimation skills to check an answer is so useful in your math stuff. Again, if you go back to this question, say like, well, I added 273 plus 385 and I got 958, and that's what my calculator told me, so it has to be correct. If you go back and take 15 seconds and do an estimation and say 300 plus 400 is only 700, so I shouldn't be getting an answer of 958. So that's why estimation is a really important tool to check the reasonableness of your answer. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about. I'm running out of time. So this is the practice from the book. It's 3 pages. It sounds like a lot. It's not too bad. There are some word problems. You don't have to worry about doing number 11. So just up to the end of number 10. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.